The Alien franchise, I think, is the greatest horror series ever made. It's a series known for boundless creativity, great directors taking large swings, and films just bursting with ideas. But what are the Alien films that are worth watching? If you're someone who is new to this franchise or maybe has never heard of it or heard of it from afar and wants to know what movies are worth checking out, this is the video for you. In this video, I watched every Alien film so you don't have to, and I'm going to quickly review all of these films spoiler free, give you my score, and tell you if I think it's worth your time to check the film out. So with that all out of the way, let's just get right into it. The first film we're going to talk about is of course Alien, a 1979 film directed by Ridley Scott, and Alien is a film where whatever I say will not do the film justice. Because this isn't just a great start to a horror franchise, this is one of the greatest horror films ever made. If you gave me 3 horror films that I could only watch for the rest of my life, it's The Shining, The Thing, and Alien. These are the greatest horror films for my money personally, and Alien is that perfect of a film because of one word: tension. Throughout the film is creating tension through what you see and specifically what you don't. It creates an incredible world through its slow methodical pace and incredible production design of Mother, the eggs, the space jockey. The film visually and audibly is just out of this world. And all of that production design and world building and incredible direction ends up leading to a film that I think is still genuinely scary. This is one of the best films when it comes to how it crafts its suspense. It allows your brain to fill in the horror rather than showing it. And the horror that comes from us seeing a cast we genuinely grow to care about slowly being killed off one by one, not because of the stupid mistakes they make, but because they keep making the right choices, but it's still not enough due to the monstrosity that's on board. The xenomorph is still a horrifying design and truly feels alien, and the sexual undertones of the face huggers and how they lay eggs in their victims is still one of the most horrifying and gross concepts in a horror film. This is a horror masterpiece with one of my favorite science fiction creatures from one of my favorite directors with Ridley Scott, and along with just this being one of the most unsettling films that I watch, it still gets under my skin every time. Whatever you do and take away from this video, please watch the original Alien film. It is a masterpiece. 10 out of 10. Now after that you might be asking, how do you follow up a horror masterpiece? Well, if you're James Cameron, you take the idea of Alien and you decide to turn it into a near-perfect action film. The sequel to Alien, Aliens from 1986, directed by James Cameron, is one of the best directed and shot action films ever made, and it's one of the best sequels ever made. It's a brand new take on the Alien series and adds a ton of world building on top of the first film, while also adding a super fun new cast that is really lovable, which leads to some of the most quotable lines in all of cinema history.
Game over, man. It's game over.
Now some don't love Aliens as much as Alien due to how it goes away from that original horror tone, but I don't mind that at all. I think that the original tone and style of Alien was done so well that there's no point even trying to replicate it because you're not going to be able to beat it. So it makes sense to do something really different with Aliens. And so of course James Cameron decided to take it the action route. Now James Cameron, as we know, is one of, if not the greatest director when it comes to action films. Like, he's one of the best. Terminator 2 for my money is the greatest action film ever made. The dude knows how to put a film together. And Aliens is no different. It puts Ripley front and center again in a huge action role. Sigourney Weaver is awesome, and I love the found family she finds in this film with Hicks and Newt. This film feels a lot more hopeful in a series that's known for how bleak it can be, and it's a super well done action film while also keeping some of that gross, creepy undertones of the original Alien film still intact. I love Aliens. I think it's hard to find someone who doesn't love Aliens, and I give this film easily a 9 out of 10. And yeah, I am one of those people that prefers Alien over Aliens. It's like the biggest debate in the Alien fandom, I guess. But it's a shame we never got to see James Cameron get to make his sequel because, as we all know, Jimmy's got a plan. But even though James Cameron didn't get to make his sequel, it did lead to one of the best directors of all time taking up the third film with David Fincher. That's right, the third film in this series, Alien 3, came out in 1992 and was directed by David Fincher. Now, I know what you're thinking. Wait a minute, we had the original film directed by Ridley Scott, the second film directed by James Cameron, and the third film was directed by David Fincher? There is no way this movie is going to be bad. But Alien 3 ends up probably being the most divisive film in the franchise. Some people love it, other people, like David Fincher himself, hate it. The direction here is a much darker and bleaker tone to the entire film. The entire film visually is lit darker, it's more grungy due to the thematic ideas they're trying to get across. The main color you'll see popping up the most in this film is the color brown. It's not a very happy film, it's not very fun, as it's a film that focuses on its main premise on Ripley getting stuck on a planet full of anauropists. Now some people love that the film is this dark, that it took such a bleak tone on the franchise after the bombastic action film of Aliens. Now while I can see why people might like this movie, I'm not one of them. I kind of hate this movie. It has has its merits, but for me, I just personally can't stand watching this film, and it's just not my thing. I would give this film a 2 out of 10. I think this is where you can personally tap out on the mainline Alien films and just go on to watch the films later in this list I'll recommend. But we still need to talk about the last Ripley film because I decided to do this to myself. So the fourth film in this series and the last film with Ripley in it is Alien Resurrection. Directed in 1997 by Jean-Pierre Jeunet. I hope I said that somewhat right. This is a film following up on Alien 3 and it really just doesn't work. This film, as the title suggests, is about the resurrection of Ripley. I guess that kind of spoils how the original trilogy ends, but hey, I didn't make these movies. But this film, just like its famous monster at the end, feels like a mistake. Jean-Pierre is known for films like Amélie, and he continues the trend of incredible directors being picked to helm these films, which is a streak that will be broken with the next film. But his stylistic and directorial approach is easily the best part of this film because the screenplay by Joss Whedon is awful. It is extremely clunky with how it gets Ripley back in the film, and it never satisfyingly gives us a reason for her to be back. It feels like The Rise of Skywalker in a lot of ways, with just how reactionary of a film it is. Alien 3 was too bleak, so this film has a happier ending. Ripley died, so bring her back. Give us fun, goofy characters like aliens instead of the bleak prison world of Alien 3. And that creates a film that really has no identity and feels like this bland combination of ideas rather than a unique film that just ends up falling flat on its face. I'd give this film personally a 3 out of 10. It's just completely skippable for me. Don't waste your time unless you want to see Sigourney Weaver hit an absolutely insane dude perfect shot. But after that original quadrilogy from the 70s to the 90s, our next film is Alien vs. Predator. Now some of you might not consider this an Alien movie, but at this point I'm in for a penny, I'm in for a pound. Alien vs. Predator was directed by Paul W.S. Anderson in 2004, and he is known for directing early 2000s Resident Evil movies. Now, at first that might put you off because there's a giant discrepancy in quality between Paul's work and all 4 directors who came before him. But I think it's a pretty good indicator of what type of movie you are getting here. This is the stupidest movie ever, but also I think it's really fun, even if it really is about as deep as a puddle. The film doesn't even try to really fit within the Alien or Predator world that much. It's set in the modern day with characters in Antarctica, and they end up in a secret temple that worships both aliens and predators and just acts as a jungle gym for all of the aliens and predators to fight each other. And honestly, it delivers on its promise. It's a fun enough time. It's not a great film, but just like Freddy vs. Jason, it's a fun, goofy romp that delivers on its fun premise that it sets out to achieve. If you want to see aliens fight predators, this is it. It's fun. This is the most 2004 movie that probably has ever come out, and if it sounds fun, go ahead and watch it. I didn't love it. I think it's a really stupid but kind of fun time. 4 out of 10. You can watch this if it sounds fun. If not, just skip it. It's gonna be as dumb as it sounds. You know what's not as fun as it sounds? Alien vs. Predator Requiem. Yup, in 2007, the sequel to Alien vs. Predator was greenlit, and this film makes me want to stab forks into my eyes. Alien vs. Predator Requiem came out in 2007 and was directed by the Strauss brothers, and this time, instead of being a PG-13 action schlock film, it was a bleak R-rated film with chestbursters popping out of kids. Awesome. This film is the type of film you'd think would be awesome when you're like 15 and want to see an edgy Predator and Alien film. Like, oh yeah, like a pregnant woman gets attacked and then gives birth to 3 xenomorphs against her will. When in reality, it's just really lame and comes off very immature. Like, this is just edgy for edge's sake. It's so dumb. Now you might be saying, well, what about the Alien vs. Predator fights? Are they good to watch? No. The color grading is atrocious. It's so dark to see the fights, and that just isn't an exaggeration. It's impossible to see what's going on. I watched this film in complete darkness, on a monitor like 10 inches away from that screen, burning my retinas, and at multiple points I could still not tell what was going on. Luckily though, with how horribly directed this film was, I'm kinda glad I wasn't able to see most of it. There is no controversy to this film, there's no behind the set drama, this film is just awful because it's a corporate sequel. It's empty, it's honestly kind of a yucky film, there's no fun to watching it, and I have no interest in watching this for the rest of my life. Save yourself the time, 1 out of 10. But that was a bit of a downer, but you know what is fascinating? In 2011, Ridley Scott, director of the first Alien film, came back to the franchise, but he didn't want to make a traditional Alien film. Instead, he wanted to make a trilogy of prequel films focused on the larger, more existential and philosophical aspects of the alien world. He wanted to look at gods, creation, and life as we know it, and in 2011, he came out and directed Prometheus. Now, Prometheus is a bit of a divisive film. It has its adamant defenders, and then there are people who are like CinemaSins who complain about how they take off their helmets the second they get near the alien. So I think Prometheus is going to be a film that everyone's gonna like differently, individually, kind of like The Last Jedi. If you're looking for a film like Alien, you're not going to get it. These are not characters that are going through all their procedures and slowly trying to figure out the best way to move forward. This is not that film. If you're wanting that, you're going to be very disappointed. And I think that's why a lot of people were disappointed by this, because they were expecting an Alien film. But if you're a fan of large science fiction that takes large swings with how it looks at philosophical ideas such as creation on a larger scale, the roles of gods and the gifts they want to leave behind to be remembered, I think this is a really interesting film that you'll like if you're able to give it the benefit of the doubt. So personally, I like Prometheus a lot, but I can also understand that it is kind of a mess. It is doing a lot of things. It's trying to be an Alien prequel, it's trying to set up the creators and the engineers, it's also trying to show the beginning of the Weyland-Yutani Corporation, and along somewhat show the beginning of the Proto-Xenomorph. So it's a very messy film, but I kind of like it because I see a lot of interesting ideas that are poking through. So if you're interested in an Alien film that goes in a completely different direction with big science fiction ideas rather than the horror of just, another xenomorph on a ship killing people, this film is for you. This film is still really creepy and has some really disturbing body horror in it, but I can't stress it enough, this is a really cool and bloated science fiction film first and an Alien prequel second. Personally, I really like it, flaws and all. I give it a 6 out of 10, but I think one of the most interesting parts about Prometheus is how it ended up getting a sequel with Alien Covenant. Alien Covenant, once again, was a 2017 film directed by Ridley Scott, and I think Alien Covenant's a fascinating film in this series because it's a sequel to Prometheus, but once again it's a prequel that's a lot more tonally in line with the first Alien film due to the backlash that Prometheus received for it not having enough xenomorphs and alien stuff in it. So it's this weird in-between step between Prometheus and Alien, and the best way I can describe it is as Ridley Scott's modern gothic horror movie. It follows a new crew that runs course with the android from Prometheus, David, and through the film you see the horrors that he has created. In that sense, Alien Covenant is an incredibly unique film due to how concentrated in tone it is. No joke, Alien Covenant is a brutal film even for Alien standards, and it dives straight into the gothic horror and body horror and is a great time. This is my type of movie. It's a gross gothic horror movie with crucified xenomorphs using tail attacks to slash jaws off people, and overall it's just such a weird and fun alien film to get greenlit through the studio system. Alien Covenant is also just so interesting because it has the remnants of the philosophical approach of Prometheus, but also with Ridley Scott's intense nihilistic horror all combined to create a good film that I don't fully think gels together perfectly, even though I think I'm a huge fan of it. I think Alien Covenant is an incredibly fun and stylish film. I'd give it a 7 out of 10. I would say definitely watch Prometheus and Alien Covenant together, and I would say hop into this after you watch Alien and Aliens and you want to see more of what happened before. If not, you can skip these films, they are pretty self-contained, but if you're going to watch our next film, I definitely recommend checking these two films out, because our next film is Alien Romulus. Now, I already made a video on this one recently, so I'll just link you to that for the main, more extended thoughts on it. But Alien Romulus is a 2024 film directed by Fede Alvarez. If you want a film that's tonally closer to Alien than any of the other films, this is it. It has top-end special and practical effects that sell the horror. It's one of the most innovative and has one of the most horrifying ends to any of the Alien films, and it feels like a huge swing in a modern film that we don't usually see, and it's honestly one of the most horrifying films in the entire series. I would say this film is great, but it is held back a little bit by problems that none of the other Alien films have, which is bizarre callbacks, along with some characters that feel really out of place in this film. But other than that, this is definitely a good film that you should watch if you like Alien and Aliens, and this is probably the best film for hopping in if you're new to the franchise. 7 out of 10, it's a blast, you should watch it. So I did it. I watched every Alien film, so you don't have to, and I can say officially now after rewatching all of these, I still think Alien and Aliens are the must-watch films for this series, and the two that you need to watch. After that, if you want to just watch some more, Alien Romulus is a really good starting point, and if you're even more interested in this world, you can go to the Ridley Scott prequel duology if you're more interested in science fiction world building and some gothic horror science fiction fun. And if you haven't gotten your fix yet of Alien after all 5 of those movies, you can just go from wherever you want and just watch the movie that sounds the most interesting to you. But if you're going to watch Aliens vs Predator Requiem, please do not blame me. I told you, it was that bad. But the Alien franchise I think is really hard to go wrong with. It is one of the greatest horror franchises ever made, and it's my personal favorite. And I honestly think it's worth checking out at least a few of these films, because I think there's at least one film in here that you will fall in love with. Also, if you just want to age rapidly and want an alien property to end up taking years off your life, go play Alien Isolation. That thing has put me 2 steps closer towards my grave.